Welcome to Roof It Up. This is a podcast about innovators, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and their stories about the course they took by Saenz Global.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Roof It Up podcast. I'm super excited about today because I have to say, in the roofing world, this guy right here is one of our favorites. Not just mine, but our whole team. You talk about someone who is really intentional in impacting the community, bringing people to light, to show what they're about. This guy is the man. Actually, it's really fun how we met.
You were in a situation where you were considering entrepreneurship. And you had some questions for me, and I answered them to the best of my ability. And one of the questions were surrounding the roofing industry. And, me being a part of the roofing industry, not a lifelong roofing industry person, but, having experience through our building materials company, that I tried to answer that. And you did one of the most amazing things, which I do not see every day, is you follow through. You did it. You tried it. I have no idea if all of whatever I said at the time was all relevant, but you actually did it and you built a team and you're growing quickly. So that was extremely memorable for me, watching you do all this stuff, because, there's a ton of people giving advice or sharing what they've learned, but what there's a lack of is motivation to actually use it. All the resources are there. What is lacking is in the motivation is you have that, so which is cool. So tying that back to motivation and what is my motivation, I talked a little bit about our building materials company, a sustainable roof coating company. So that's my day to day. I've had a lot of learning through there. But overall, this business we've had around for over a dozen years. But before that, I had a marketing business as well. So I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years. So I've made pretty much every single mistake in the book. And my goal is trying not to make them the second time. Right. So, and whatever I've learned, I am not the expert, but I try to share what I've learned, and it helps me reinforce what I learned. And also I get a big kick out of helping people, because I really, really remember when I was starting out that there was a ton of people that gave me my first chance or my next break. And it feels really good to, in a very, very small way, pay that back.
Yeah, I have to definitely kind of echo what you just said. So you were that for us, for Saenz Global. I very vividly remember, we are this brand new startup. This is just an idea that we're having. We don't know how to do anything in the industry. We don't know how to pull permits. We don't know anything. We just knew that we had a background in construction and we really liked, this roofing avenue and maybe researching it. And I remember it was the amount of rejection that I got, right? Just being an entrepreneur, the amount of rejections you get is just insane. And I remember that you were drinking a sip of water in the middle of the desert. I remember that you, you gave me such, such great information that day when we met at Clubhouse. But then we also set up a meeting, and I was like, this guy wants to he's open to meeting with me. I'm super shocked, right? You're CEO, and I'm this little tiny, we're we're in this journey. And on that call, the amount of just strength that you gave me, I don't think you'll ever understand. It's literally when I would have really tough days where we're the amount of just rejections of this new idea, I would just think back to those words that you would say, right? Hey, the tips that you would give, the information and value that I had no idea about the industry, that just a few minutes of speaking with you that you were able to share, and that was able to give more direction in the path that we needed to go. But just little things hey, what about the name of our company? And then just encouragement. So I just want to let you know, what someone did for you, you have tenfolded done for us as a company. And I really think when I say you are one of our favorite people, you're so engaging on our, thanks for even the small things, you like our TikTok videos or our Instagram, like our social platforms, like you are one of our biggest engagers, and we really appreciate that because we feel you're empowering us and we really look up to you. So that's not just me, Thais, but that's our whole company as a whole. So thanks for bringing that fresh water for us, like in the midst of the desert where we want to give up. You really were there to like help us propel forward. So we hope that we get to do that for others as well. So thank you for passing that on to us. You've made a huge difference in our company. So
Yeah,
we really
and I think
appreciate
this
you.
podcast is your way of giving back, right? So
Yeah, I like definitely hope that is definitely the case. I think, yeah, we just want to give back and encourage people when, we all go through this journey. Why did you decide? I know you were like, hey, I've been, 23 years, like you've been an entrepreneur, all these different things, CEO. Why did you decide to go this avenue in your career? Like, is this originally what you wanted to do 23 years ago? Like,
so I distinctly remember when I was 10 years old, I had a friend that had a pear tree in his backyard. And I had this idea, I don't know where this idea came from, was, convincing him to collect the pears, and we'd go together and we'd set up a table near a convenience store without fruit, and to sell these things. And we did this, and the pears are really ugly. As a child we don't know any better, and there's a bus stop, so there's a flow of people that were coming through there, and we weren't very successful, except when we were there. What occurred was there was an individual that had he was a guy with his girlfriend that came up to our table and said, hey, you know, I really, really love entrepreneurs. Like, he looked us straight in the eye, and then he reached into his wallet and pulled out a crisp $20 bill and gave it to us. And for us, we're 10 years old. That could have been $1 million. Went out there. The idea wasn't great because the pears are horrible, and we didn't know what we're doing, and we didn't know how to sell. But if you try something, right? You may run across a situation where you'll get rewarded for that. And that sort of clicked for me, where, that was really, really exciting. And sort of fast forward a bunch of years, there's other things that come up in life. I tried my hand in trying to play some competitive sports. But when I was through that, I really wanted to take the shot at entrepreneurship. And this is when entrepreneurship wasn't cool, you know, right now it's so cool to be an entrepreneur, to a point where I feel a little uncomfortable because they make it sound so awesome, and I don't feel like it's for everyone. And just because you're a job doesn't make you a second class citizen. Is great. It's different things for different people. But when I was starting, it wasn't cool, right? It's like, hey, you're an entrepreneur. Oh, so you couldn't find a job, right? but and there wasn't as many resources as there were now. So I knew, like, I was reading stuff and all those things, but for me, I needed a mentor. So I was looking around for a mentor, and I ran across, just through a friend introduction, of an individual named Peter Rosen. So he was an inventor type. He invented the Windows Media Player. He sold it to Bill Gates. He worked on some early 3D printing technology. He worked on a steel measurement technology that was later cited in the MRI patent. He invented a bunch of stuff. And I said, I am going to learn from this individual, right? I'm going to work for free. I'm going to photocopy. I'm going to do whatever it takes to learn. And that's really what kicked off my entrepreneurial journey.
That's awesome. It just like a light clicked on. And it's so true. Like, in today's world, being like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, it's just the cool thing to do. And it's really funny because I really agree with you. Like, it's not for everyone. TikTok and social media make it sound like it is. And there's like, I think it's definitely 100% not for everybody, right? You have to just really be able to take, like, have a high risk tolerance because it gets crazy. What is one common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on the roofing industry itself. I've had the pleasure of, doing a live stream, interviewing a ton of people that are in the roofing industry. And, although, I have not spent my entire life in the roofing industry. I've got to know a lot of people through our sort of materials company and a lot of companies in the roofing space. And I would say, you know, the amount of I think the myth is that, you know, if you can't make it somewhere else, you end up in roofing. And I think that's very, very unfair because there's a ton of, you know, giving, smart, you know, people that have very rich and, you know, great lifestyles in the roofing industry. And I think sometimes, you know, if you're not in that industry, there's that stigma around, you know, roofing as being a sort of less than glorious trade. Now, it is hard. It is hard work, but the opportunity is massive, and I think that's quite a bit, you know, overlooked. So that's one that comes to mind.
It is crazy to me. Obviously, now I'm very deep into this world of roofing. Like, it's $1 billion industry, right? It's like you have exceptional leaders, like really talented, like it's hard work, like really hard work, but you have exceptional leaders. What are the most important lessons that you've learned in owning your business and also being a CEO for, you know, a very thriving company?
After I sort of started to work with Peter, you know, you develop a relationship, and some of the earlier companies that I started were around sort of helping other companies grow, right? So we had an agency, and you know, we weren't, you know, I wasn't quite sure on what I wanted to do in terms of my early entrepreneurship. And if you don't know, one of the best things you can do is help companies in different industries, because you learn all sorts of things about how different industries work, and you can learn, right? Because you know what happens in the mining industry or the roofing industry is different than consumer products, but those ideas, those sort of practices are sometimes relevant in other industries. So you start to mix and match, and you don't have to come up with the ideas from scratch. You can just be inspired by other industries or other people that maybe there isn't, you know, a prevalent practice in one industry. So I think that's one of the things I learned. And as I sort of help companies grow and launch, because the company was around sort of product or innovation feasibility and then launching. So I was involved in 100 plus launches. I started to really question what I was trying to help bring into the world, right? Like, sure, you can promote things, you can be excited about the process of spreading ideas, like some of the things we would get on TV and get like 50 million views or get into 2,000 stores. But then I really start to question, what am I helping to bring into this world? And I think one of the things that's important as a leader is to get very clear on your own core values, the company's core values, and why the organization exists, and try your best to communicate that. So that's one of the things that as you're moving up in the organization or your organization grows, you as a leader have to get better at that, right? Because you know that's how you keep people together. That's what you give people purpose. Now, I'm not saying that every day, you know, every employee or every team member is going to wake up and say we're going to do this, but you have to try, right? And you know, if you get a core group of people that really believe what you believe, or as a whole believe, then you can accomplish amazing things. Now, the next thing I learned about, you know, you said specifically a CEO, is the variety of knowledge that you need to have to be successful. So, Hais, have I ever talked to you about the 3 weaknesses?
No, you haven't.
Okay, so I learned this from one of my podcast guests. So he says there is 3 weaknesses. So it piqued my interest. So the first weakness, okay, so I am not a good cook. I'm horrible. Luckily, I've offered to help my wife and improve in this area. She doesn't care. She wants no part of that experiment. And although I've been, you know, trying to, I'm not good at it. Luckily, in my unique situation, it doesn't matter. It's not appreciated, and it's a weakness. I can keep a weakness. Mm-hmm. Now, that's weakness 1. Weakness 2 is, you know, in business, there's 3 separate buckets, if you really want to simplify it. So, you know, sales and marketing generally fall into, or business development falls into demand generation, right? Then there's operations, which is keeping your internal team and your customers happy. And the third bucket is finance, which is doing the first 2 profitably, right? So, you know, most leaders maybe are good at one of them. I've seen situations where a leader is good at two. I've never ever run across someone that has been great at three. So if you are really weak at one or two of them, weakness number two is if you have a goal of running a business, you have to be average in two out of the three, and if you have to be good at one, which means weakness number two is you have to mitigate certain types of weaknesses if you have a goal, right? So you cannot be, you need to be financially competent if you want to grow an organization. You need to understand what a balance sheet is. You need to understand what the P&L is. You need to understand, these documents so that you can run your business, right? Whether it's cash flow, these things, you don't need to be a genius, but in order to outsource it properly, in order to pull that strategy in, you need to mitigate that weakness. Okay, so this leads me to weakness number three. Okay, so whether you like him or not, Elon Musk is a fantastic communicator. Was he always that way? Like, it's kind of awkward, but he has this ability of convincing large groups of people to follow him, the way he raises money, the way he moves his company around. But if you go back, 20, 30 years, he was not a very good communicator, right? But if you have a huge, huge goal in changing the world, sending people to Mars, weakness number three are weaknesses that you need to turn into a strength. If you want to change the world, you need to be a world-class communicator, full stop, right? There's just no way around it if because you're going to be the center of attention. You can't outsource that away. You have to be world-class. So depending on your goals, you really need to identify, your weaknesses and how you're going to deal with them, and have the courage to say, hey, I'm not weak at this, but this is my goal. And I'm going to find some way to take this weakness and make it a strength, because my purpose is more important than any obstacle or any fear that I have.
That's good stuff right there. So powerful. I had never heard that. Whoever was on your podcast and said that, brilliant. And I love that you were
able to Bob Berg, Go Giver. So he's the best-selling author. So
awesome. I definitely have some weaknesses that I need to work on. So that was really good.
We all do, right? We all do. That's the fun of it. I mean, entrepreneurship is probably, the best form of personal development available, right? When you're growing the company, it finds your weaknesses, right? I mean, because there's so many things you have to know. You're juggling so many balls, and, it's for people that like the challenge, right?
Yes.
Because you can't let, certain things just sit there, because entrepreneurship will expose that. But when you're on the other side of, the fear or the challenge, many times, at least for me, it's like, why didn't I do it sooner, right? What took me so long? Life is so much better on the other side of this. And, I try to keep reminding myself, because there's always new challenges that require courage and, dealing with the unknown.
But okay, so we're going to wrap this up, but I wanted to ask you one question. So I know that you're a CEO of a fantastic company. And I want if you're listening to this and you're in the roofing industry, I want you to talk to them. If this is a product that they need or service, who is your ideal client? So how can they get a hold of you, or how can they know more about what you're offering the roofing industry? And I will tell you this personally, if you're listening to this, there is one thing when you're able to, yes, the brand is good, right? But there's something when the people who are the brand, right? So who are leading the company. And I have to tell you personally, Tats is an incredible human. He literally is on a mission to impact lives. And so I am 100, if I had a roofing company, I would totally be all in to everything that your company is offering. I want to be supporting it and using it because I know that I'm going to get that support when I need it, right? I'm going to get that, you're not just selling. Like your clients too are not just numbers. They really matter to you. And I know that that's reality because that's who you are. You care about people. And when you care about people, you care about the impact that your product has on them. So if you don't know, Tat's going to share more about his the company, the line, the brand. If you haven't heard of them, go check them out. Seriously, work with it. It's awesome. So Tats, go ahead, take it away.
Sure, absolutely. We weren't originally in the roofing industry, but we were more into the flooring side. But we kept getting inquiries about our product because it had some very unique properties, and the unique properties were this. It was the high adhesion. Like we would stick unbelievably to substrates, especially roofing substrates. It was a sustainability factor, drinking water safe, plant-based materials. And the last one is the recoat window, which was all about, being able to repair it. And what happened in the roofing industry, and this is what we learned later, was there was a very, very big focus on simplifying the application process. And with the changes in the environment, you see a lot of extreme temperatures and weather patterns that many of the past technologies no longer could keep up in many situations. So there was an opportunity for us to come in and fill that sort of opportunity. So, we're not saying that products in the industry are bad. It's not that. It's just that there was an opportunity, that there was a segment and certain types of applications that we would fit very well with. And, initially when you are, you have a company before that spent so much time doing product or market feasibilities, we were a little inherently skeptical. But when we verified it, we started to work with clients and specifiers and contractors to see if this truly was a need. There was a fit. So ever since then, it's been great. We're still a young company. We're still learning a ton. But we definitely welcome the opportunity to work with you and prove to you that there is a need of our product in your toolkit. Not to replace everything that you're doing, but just gives you another creative option to solve problems which roofers are the best at, right? They come across so many different challenges, and what we have just gives you another option to solve a problem for your client.
Yeah, 100%. And so if they want to know more, like where should they go to find out about your website or what your
Castagra.com. I'm not sure if you have show notes or not, but and also if you find me on social media, connect with me and I can direct you in the right direction as well.
Love it. And yes, totally. And we're going to put notes in here. So if you're watching, listening, you can scroll down. You'll find everything you need to know about Tat's business company, and also about Tat's personal, like Instagram, TikTok, all those good stuff. His LinkedIn, he's huge on LinkedIn. Follow him. He's incredible. Well, everyone, thanks so much for listening. Tats, thanks so much for being on our show. We really, really appreciate you. All right. See you later, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.